Hi, it's Breacher18 here from Breacher18.com, and I'm with Richard Green, author of Parsantium. Richard, you alright?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Excellent. Nice to see you smiling.
Yeah.
Don't worry too much. It'll just be like all the other times when we play on Google Hangout, only less of probably Simat talking about 10-foot poles.
Yes, yes.
So not that much different really, but
no, probably not.
Cool. Okay, so yeah, Parsantium, I have it here. I had to pay for it. I was going to download it illegally, but I thought, no, being as you're my mate, I'll pay for it. And you've scribbled in it as well for me, which is really nice. So even, you know, I can't sell it now. So so thanks for that. But no, it's good to have you anyway. So yeah, Parsantium. What does Parsantium mean to you in terms of the place and, you know, how it
sort of came about?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, well, about back in 2007, when they announced that 4th edition D&D was coming out, I thought, well, I'd like to run a new game and run a city campaign for my players. So I started thinking about what kind of city I wanted to do. And I was quite keen on, I'd liked Al-Qadim and I'd liked Oriental Adventures. So I thought if I could do a city that had the medieval fantasy bits in, but also I could bring in some Arabian Nights stuff and I could bring in some Indian stuff and some Chinese stuff, that would be great. So I thought about how it was going to work and looked at Byzantium as a sort of model for it. And took that as the starting point, really. So it was never really ever going to be a source book. It was just going to be somewhere that I ran games in. And I think we've clocked up about 500 hours gaming in the city over the last sort of 5 or 6 years. But I'd written obviously a lot of material for it, so I thought, well, why not turn it into a book? Cool.
So Parsantium didn't sort of exist before you then. You are.
Yeah, I mean, I've borrowed lots of things from, you know, the geography and history of Istanbul, Constantinople, Byzantium, and I've borrowed bits from legends and myths and so on from India and China and Arabian Nights, but I've kind of brought all my own stuff into it, and I've kind of melded it all together really and come up with my own setting, and it's very much a D&D setting, but it's just different to the sort of standard D&D city, really. It's just got a lot more of those kind of different cultures going on in it.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone through it, and it does seem very different to the sort of settings that I'm used to. It seems less fantasy. It's a setting, obviously, other than, you know, your different races. The city almost it could exist, you know. Whereas there's certain settings like it's definitely fantasy. You know, it does feel very real, like sort of Mediterranean feel to it.
Yeah. It's I guess that's kind of deliberate. I mean, it's definitely a fantasy city, and there's dragons in it, and wizards and possibly tall towers and all of those kind of things. But I was trying to make it as sort of believable as possible.
Yeah.
And I was using kind of a few bits from history and so on, and that kind of maybe trying to make it as believable. Well, hopefully it's worked, because I think quite a few people have said that they thought it was somewhere that actually it could well exist.
Yeah. What made you choose Pathfinder as the system for this particular source book?
Sure. Okay, so I think the number of people playing D&D, different versions of D&D, Pathfinder, 4th edition, D&D Next playtesting, 13th Age, all of those things has just kind of meant that there's a very sort of diverse group of players out there. So I wanted the book to be as usable for absolutely, you know, all of those people. So although it's got Pathfinder logo on the front, it hasn't got very many stats in it, or hardly any stats at all. And the Pathfinder license was the main reason I wanted to use it. Was it just allowed me to have a bit of a reference point, so that if I say that an NPC is a 7th level fighter, and another NPC is a 15th level wizard, then that kind of makes some sense to people. So I use Pathfinder as almost like to pin those kind of stats on.
Yeah.
But those are probably the extent of the stats in there. I think the gods have got domains from Pathfinder, and I've used the format of the city stat block from the Pathfinder Game Mastery Guide, but that's it really. It's really usable with any version of D&D, and the Pathfinder license allows me to reference their versions of things, but it'll be easy to change a magus to a sword mage, or a witch to a warlock, or so on, if you are playing a different version of the game. So yeah, it's aimed at as many people as possible, because I know I'm playing like about 3 versions of D&D at the moment,
right,
and I know a lot of other people are as well.
The decision for Pathfinder, it wasn't really to do with the fact that the licensing is quite lenient, so you could apply it to other systems.
Yeah, the fact that the license is very clear and very user-friendly for a small publisher definitely helped. And also, Paizo allow you to use their compatibility logo if you send them a copy and you comply with their license. So that definitely helped, because I had quite a bit of interest when I was writing the book from people on the Paizo forums. So that was one of the reasons why I went with Pathfinder. The 4E GSL license is very complicated and quite restrictive, I think.
I can imagine,
this is definitely the best license to go with, and I think it's great that Paizo are sort of kind of encourage small publishers to put things out there and say that they're compatible with Pathfinder.
Definitely, it just makes it more accessible, which is fantastic. I mean, what has the response to Parsantium been like so far for you?
It's been really good. So when I wrote it, I needed to sell 150 to break even. So that was my target. Sell enough to earn back what I paid for the cover art and the map and the interior art. And it's been out just over 3 months, and I've done nearly double that number of sales. So that's great. I've also had some nice reviews. I've had just lots of comments on various forums and on G+ and Twitter and things that have also so it seems to have been well received by gamers out there, and that's what I wanted really. I wanted to do a book that was going to be reasonably commercially successful,
and
also that people liked, and so I'm really, really pleased.
I'd say you've achieved that. I mean, you're quite lucky though, because you're well known within the role-playing community, and you're very respected in the community, and you're such a nice guy.
Very nice of you to say that.
Yeah, you're such a nice guy. It'd be like,
oh, thank you.
How could you give this person a bad review? It's just you wouldn't be able to do it. I don't honestly. I'm struggling with that issue at the moment, having to review games, and it is difficult to give a bad review when the person is so nice. But, you know, sometimes constructive criticism has to be done.
Yeah.
You're just lucky that you have put so much work into it, and it's come out brilliant anyway. So, you know, you're going to get nice reviews.
I've had a bit of criticism of some of the reviews, but it's been, I haven't minded, because it's been really well thought out and balanced, and it hasn't just been, you know, it's been kind of I like this bit there and I didn't like that bit, and that, I think that's fair enough. No one's going to like everything, are they?
Well, that's true. You can't cater for everybody. And like you said, constructive criticism that's good. It's when it's just sort of nastiness for nastiness sake. There's no real need to it. So, but I'm glad that it hasn't been like that for you.
No, I'm glad too.
Because then, you know, I'll
cry or something.
You'll have to deploy me, and I can go around kneecapping all of these, you know, bearded blokes. So, so lucky that I don't have to do that. But I'm really glad that that's gone so well. In terms of what you've experienced so far, is there anything that you would do differently, knowing what you know now?
I think there's maybe a few little bits and pieces I might have done slightly differently in the text, but I think the main thing I would have bought a bit more art. because when I originally set about to write it, I thought, oh, it'll be about 40,000 words, and I'll probably need about 15 pieces of art in the book, proper illustrations.
Yeah.
And it ended up being 90,000 words, so it ended up being more pages, and also it just ended up being, as well as being longer, I think there were bits of it that I think perhaps could have been done with an illustration, but I hadn't commissioned one, and it was kind of too late to do that, really. So I think if I could go back and do it all again, I would have got a few more illustrations commissioned. The two artists I used inside the book, Matt Morrow and Mark Radel, were both excellent. So it was probably just been a case of giving them a couple more pieces to do each, and getting a few more pictures in there of some of the characters or some of the places in the book.
Yeah, I mean, the cover is fantastic. It's so beautiful. I think that's why it makes me feel of this sort of Mediterranean theme. Or it kind of reminds me a bit of Game of Thrones, almost.
Yeah.
You know, with the whole sort of
big landing bits and
definitely. It has that look about it, and the artwork is, you know, the illustrations are beautiful. The map is amazing. I'm glad you did the offer with the PDF, because although you get the map inside the book, I think to see it in colour.
Better in colour, and it's better being able to zoom in, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in colour really does it justice.
It's John Roberts, and he did some stuff for Cobalt Press. That's how I know him. But he's also done illustration. He's done a map box set of maps of the Lands of Ice and Fire for HarperCollins.
Oh right, okay.
Which I'm early for. So I don't know. I was really lucky to get him to do it. I kind of asked him, and I thought, I don't know, I either won't be able to afford him, or he'll be too busy and stuff. But he did it, and I just stunning, absolutely stunning.
Yeah, it does really add to it. I know you've been working on Parsantium for the 13th age system.
Yeah.
How is that going for you at the moment? Are you enjoying it more? Is it completely different? Very similar?
What I'm trying to do is, because I think if you got the book, you'd be able to use it in a 13th age game without any difficulty, just because of what I said before about the stats. But there obviously aren't the icons in the book. So what I've done is I've picked out 15 NPCs and organisations that are either in the book or they're not in the book, but they're in the wider world.
Right.
And I've been writing about those. So I've done 4. I've posted them on Parsantium.com, and I'm just going to do one a week until I've done them all. They'll just be free content, really. I've enjoyed doing it because I've been actually, some of the characters that aren't in the book, I'm having to go, well, who is the Caliph of Akram? What's he like? And write stuff about him.
Yeah.
And that's helping me kind of expand the world a bit. And so I may well produce some kind of supplement collecting them all together at some point in the future. But at the moment, I'm getting them all on the blog and hoping that people like them and they can use them.
Apart from Parsantium, is there anything else in the pipeline for you, or anything you'd like to work on in the future?
I think what I'd like to do is I'd like to do 1 or 2 small supplements. I don't think I want to do a 90,000 word book again. I think my wife would probably kill me as well if I asked her to edit and lay out another 90,000 word book. So what I thought maybe is to publish 1 or 2 adventures. So obviously they probably will need some stats. So I think maybe stats for Pathfinder and 13th Age, and then depending on what happens with the D&D Next license, which we're going to hear about, I think not until after Christmas, but it would be great to be able to support like the 3 kind of most popular versions of D&D that people are playing.
The big daddies.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
No, I understand that. That would be very cool. I'm interested to see actually how D&D Next turns out, because obviously quite a few of us have taken part in the beta testing.
Playtest,
playtest. But it obviously no one really knows what the final product's going to be like, other than the people who are doing it. So they're all going to slowly be released throughout this year, which I don't actually get, because they're releasing the player's handbook right at the beginning, and then the Dungeon Master's Guide right at the end.
Yeah, I think the Dungeon Master's Guide's going to have a lot of sort of supplementary stuff in. So I think the idea is that we'll be able to play with the basic rules that they're bringing out in July and the Player's Handbook, and that'll be enough. And I think the 2 adventures that are coming out, the Dragon Queen adventures, they won't need any other books with them other than perhaps the basic PDF that will be for free. So I think it'll be okay, I think.
Anything's an improvement on 4th edition for me. I'm not a fan of it. That's not like a secret. I don't really care how much jip I'll get for that. I'm sure there'll be, well, I know there's lots of fans of 4th edition, but for me personally, it was so dragged out. Every turn, the fact that people were doing bonuses if you knew what you were doing when it got round to your turn says it all. That's just like, that's crazy. You should be able to listen to what other people are doing during their turn, not focus solely on what you're going to be doing next turn.
Yeah.
So
I think that's one of the good things about D&D Next is it's going to, well, based on what we've been playtesting, combat will be quite fast, won't it?
Yeah, I mean, it seems from the ones that I've done, obviously, because I've only sort of played a few of the playtests packets that they released. I can't remember which was the most up-to-date one, but it seems pretty streamlined. Certainly from 4th edition, it's a lot more streamlined. So I am looking forward to that, because I do like D&D, I just didn't like that edition. Big fan of Pathfinder, which is based on, 3.5? And then as for advanced D&D, oh my days.
That was the first game I played. So 1st edition AD&D, that's what I grew up playing. And at the time, it all seemed to make sense. But when you look back on it now,
I've got the book, the 2nd edition.
Kind of ad-lib quite a lot of stuff for it.
Yeah, I've got the 2nd edition book, and it's good to have. It's like it's just like a piece of history, gaming history in your hand, and I can appreciate that at the time it was probably the best thing since sliced bread, and everybody was just so blown away by it. But for me, I've been spoiled in terms of the stuff that's available to me now. So having played the various systems that are out now and then going back and looking at something like that, I'm like, it took me ages to get my head round like THAC0 charts. I was like, what? I don't get this. Why am I drawing some sort of graph to play a game? And they're like, yeah, but this is how you work it out. I'm like, am I in a maths lesson or am I playing a role-playing game here? It was crazy.
I'm kind of with you on THAC0, definitely.
Cool. So that's proof, guys. That's from an author of a source book for Pathfinder, and he's just slated, I'm going to use the word slate, I'll play it up, slated THAC0. Well, thank you for taking the time out to answer my questions.
It's a pleasure, thank you.
It's all right.